Why is the QA thing up? All right, here we go. We are back talking about letting me give you shit. We're talking about giveaways still. The one last thing I did not get to cover on doing giveaways is make sure you obey the law. And what that means is not so much Twitch's laws, which you still have to obey, but I mean also your local laws. So when you are giving away stuff, either have somewhere on your Twitch page or state when you are doing the giveaway that it is not sponsored by Twitch. Twitch does actually require you to do this. So make sure people understand that the giveaway is not sponsored by Twitch. So whether you say that on stream, in your chat, or listed somewhere on your page that all giveaways are not sponsored by Twitch, you should be fine so people cannot dispute that and go, oh my god, she gave away this thing. Twitch has no responsibility for that. Make sure they understand that. The other thing is make sure you are obeying the laws at wherever you're at. So for instance, I cannot do sub-only giveaways. The reason why is because gambling is illegal in my country, or in my state. Sorry, not my country. It's not illegal in my country. It's illegal in my state. So I cannot actually do sub-only giveaways because it constitutes gambling because the people pay for an entry to get into it. So I cannot actually do sub-only giveaways, whereas someone else who lives in a different area can absolutely do sub-only giveaways. So make sure you are obeying the laws around you as well as Twitch's laws. Knowledge, bitch! That's right. We actually have a whole section called Fuck the Police, Superman. Speaking of stuff, hold on. All right, we're gonna jump into a hot topic that we had on episode 1. We're gonna talk about alienating and isolated games some more. When we first talked about this on the previous section, there were a ton of questions about what the fuck is an alienated game, what's an isolated game, and what does this mean for my stream, and how can I tell the difference, and all this other shit. So let's define these two things. Let's talk about these two things. Alienating games mean a large population hates this game. Doesn't mean that like you've asked your friend like, oh, I hate that game, it's automatically an alienating game. No, it's maybe alienating for him, but an alienating game, basically we're defining this as a very large population hates that game. I'm sure you guys can think of a few games that fall into this category. Call of Duty, League of Legends, Dota. There's large populations that absolutely despise those games. Now, of course, for any game, there's going to be a few people who just don't like it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. There's going to be a few people who are just like, I don't really like that game. Now, alienating games are not necessarily games that people are just meh about. Meh doesn't necessarily make a game alienating. It just mostly means that people are just like, not my favorite. You know, that sort of thing. So there's a ton of games out there that people just absolutely despise. Now, the reason why we define this as a game category on Twitch is because you don't want to ever transition to them. And what I mean by that is because you will literally, if it is a truly alienating game, you can not only cause certain people to just leave your stream, but you can cause loyal viewers to never ever come back. Ever. And that seems harsh, but it's the absolute truth. People are fickle bitches. People are absolutely fickle bitches, and they'll look at a game and go, oh my god, I cannot believe she plays this game. I am never coming back to the stream. And if it's a truly alienating game, like, for instance, Call of Duty, then there's a lot of people where if I went and played League of Legends right now or something like that, there's a bunch of followers who, if they saw me even playing it, would unfollow and never come back. Fickle bitches. Hashtag fickle fucking bitches. So let's talk about isolated games. Isolated games in many ways are not as bad. Isolated games are not terrible to switch to. However, the problem with isolated games is that basically isolated games are a category of games where the people who do watch them, the people who do watch those games, don't really want to watch anything else. Don't really want to watch anything else. So basically it's games where it's not so much that people hate them or anything like that, it's just they have such a strongly knit community and such a strongly like grouped together, like it's typically people who are playing games that have a lot of replayability and And basically they don't want to watch or play anything else. So that's all they watch on Twitch. That's it. That's it. That's all they watch on Twitch. When they go on Twitch, they click on the game and they find somebody to watch on there. And that's it. They never branch out from that. And there's certain games that literally that entire community is isolated. Like, they are completely in a different bubble of Twitch. So it's one of those things, like, definitely be aware of games that are isolated. Now, the problem with isolated games is not so much that it's bad to switch to them. It's really not, because some of the people in isolated games will follow you to other games. However, the problem with isolated games is the fact that most of the follows you get from that are only ever going to watch you play that game again. So you kind of have to be aware of, like, if I'm getting follows from this game, are they even going to follow me anywhere else if you are a variety streamer? So that also brings me to the fact that we're talking about alienating games and isolated games, but the funny part is alien isolation is neither. Just to point it out, it's actually neither. Alien Isolation is not an alienating game or an isolated game. It's actually a great game to randomly jump onto. No one's really going to look at you and go, the majority of population is not going to look at you and go, I fucking hate that game. And it doesn't have a community that only wants to watch Alien Isolation. It's kind of funny how it works out that Alien Isolation is neither. And this brings me to the next point that we kind of just touched on a bit ago, is that if you're looking at the games, being alone, being an isolated game is a lot better than pissing off everybody. So, so if you are looking at jumping into one of these games because you absolutely love it, please keep in mind that if you have a choice between an isolated game and an alien game, isolated is not going to be as bad for you. Now, keep in mind, obviously, non-alien or isolated games are much, much better for you. So keep that in mind. So let's actually give you guys some examples. Let's give you guys some examples of games that are both. I mean, these are the worst of the worst. These are the games that you do not want to touch on Twitch with a 10-foot fucking pole. You do not want to go around these games if you're already established on something else. You probably don't even want to play these games from the start. These are also the games that are the biggest on Twitch because of their nature, because they're isolated, because they have communities that only play those games, because they have no one else that comes to those games. Basically, the only people that ever watch those games are the people who play them. Because they have such huge communities, that's why they are the way they are. Now, the really funny part about this is I list any MOBA. The really funny part about it is Smite. The reason why Smite is donkey right here is because Smite isn't actually in this category. Smite is neither an alienating or isolated game. It may actually be an isolated game. I don't know. I can't remember where we listed it. We went through all this, but it's not an alienating game. To be honest with you, Smite is not. Because to be honest with you, if one of my favorite streamers switches over to Smite, I'll sit there and watch it. I don't necessarily hate Smite. So it's really funny how that works out. However, Dota and LoL, if somebody switch over to though, I'm switching that shit off. I actually enjoy playing Dota. But it's definitely an alienating game and isolated game, and I will not watch even my favorite streamers play it. That also brings me to World of Warcraft. There's a ton of people who hate World of Warcraft, and the only people who watch it are the people who normally stream it and normally play it. That's it. Like, that's the only people who watch it. And there's a ton of people who hate it, myself included. I can no longer watch that game ever. I really enjoy playing Dota. I really do. But yeah. We already mentioned Call of Duty. It's both. The really funny part about Call of Duty, and the reason why we single it out from the rest of the shooting games, is because, well, the rest of the shooting games are kind of neither. The really funny part. Now, shooting games as a whole, as an entire category, are somewhat isolating and somewhat alienating, but the games themselves by themselves are not. You'll watch regular streamers, you'll watch regular variety casters play the newest Battlefield or the newest, whatever, Far Cry or that sort of thing. But shooters in general are not, besides Call of Duty. Call of Duty will literally send your viewers running in the opposite direction. It's kind of funny how that works. RuneScape, it's another one of these. RuneScape is such a weird game on Twitch because it's massive. It's fucking massive on Twitch and no one knows why. because the only people who watch it on Twitch are the people who play it. And it's kind of funny. So if you really love RuneScape, you may, if you want to be a variety streamer on Twitch, you may want to stay away from it, because the people who do follow you from playing RuneScape will probably not follow you anywhere else. Ark Survival Evolved. Brand new game that recently came out, you know, a few months ago or whatever. I use a Tamagotchi on here because I hate this fucking game. I hate this game. And so does a lot of other people. Now, there's a bunch of people who love this game, but the only people who watch this game are people who play Ark. And usually the people who are even watching it are the people playing on the same server. It's even worse. It's even worse. Like, I hate to say it. Now, the funniest thing about Ark is it's not as bad as Rust. Like, I mean, like, Rust is much easier to swallow than Ark is. Like, I will watch other people play Rust way, way before I'll watch anyone play Ark. And that's the funny part, is they're very, very similar games in many aspects, but Rust is actually somewhat enjoyable to watch. It's not a game that I absolutely despise. So, yeah, it's one of those games that, like, if you are considering growing off of Ark, please reconsider. Just letting you guys know. The other thing is sports games in general. Sports games as a whole are both alienating and isolated. If I love a streamer and they start playing fucking FIFA, I'm turning it off. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Like, I think we all agree, if you're watching something in general, like, unless you are a huge fan of sports games, those communities by themselves are already isolated and they alienate people. Like, it's not for the glitches like this. So yeah. Let's talk about games that are just, oh wait, the stream title. Hold on. Oh yeah. Let's talk about games that are just isolated communities. These ones are not so bad. Basically Path of Exile. Path of Exile is a game that basically, if you go tune into it, I mean, if one of my streamers switched over to it, I'm not gonna really hate it. I'm mostly meh about Path of Exile, but the communities there are so well established and so well built up that they don't really watch anything else. These are games that really, honestly, the communities that are part of these games, it's not so much the game itself, it's mostly the communities for these games. And the follows you get from these games are really not going to follow you elsewhere. And it's going to be really, really, really hard for you to take, if you start on one of these games, it's going to be hard for you to take the viewers that you have from those games to a variety stream aspect until you grow astronomically large. So Path of Exile ends up being one of those games, sadly enough. Same with StarCraft 2, sadly. Now, like I said, it's similar boat of me watching someone else play StarCraft 2. I would love to watch someone else play StarCraft 2. However, all the rest of the community is gonna be like, they're only gonna watch StarCraft 2. That's all they watch. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the category of all these games. Rust actually falls in that category. XLs, I know you main Rust. I know you know what I'm talking about. XLs, I don't know if you've actually tried to jump to another game, but when you do, you may run into a problem that many, many, many other viewers you gained from Rust are not going to follow you anywhere else. And that's kind of the problem. Most of the people who play games like this, play Rust, will watch it on Twitch because they're in the same server or just want to get general tips and that sort of thing. So Rust is very much an isolated game. Now, in general, guys, just to keep you guys in line and give you guys an idea, every game in some aspect is isolated. Every single game on Twitch does have isolated community members who only watch that game. But we're talking about the games that where the majority of the community only watches that game. The majority. So keep that in mind. We're only talking about the majority. Fighting games as a whole are isolated. It's one of those things where if one of my favorite streamers was playing a fighting game, I wouldn't really care. But at the same time, the communities that typically follow those fighting games are very, very much stuck on those fighting games. Is Tekken even a game that's on Twitch anymore? I don't know. So Magic the Gathering, pretty self-explanatory there. In Diablo 3, very similar category, Path of Exile, tons of replayability, huge lengthy game sessions, that sort of thing. But everyone typically enjoys the game. They just have such huge games and such huge replayability that they end up being an isolated game because the people are stuck on them. Usually an isolated game comes about from a game that's super addicting, tons of replayability, and basically establishes a community of comparison. And that's kind of where a lot of these games come from. It's basically if you can compare yourself to these other people and be like, my character's better, that sort of thing. If you end up with a game that has tons of replayability, but you have also that comparison factor, you end up with a lot of isolated games. So even MMOs in general often fall into this category, but some of them